14 is kicked off with a bang. Welcome to the Friday edition here of the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross here at Circus Sports, fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada. He is our GM, Michael Lombardi, back on the East Coast in New Jersey. Michael, these primetime games, wow. I feel like every Tuesday, Friday, when we start off the show, we have a whole lot to talk about, my friend. What'd you make of that wild one?
With less sleep. With less sleep. I mean, you're lucky. You know, of course, you're not lucky. You have to get up early, too, there. But, I mean, this whole, you can't go to sleep. You can't go to bed. It's like, okay, can this game get over? I want to put it in. But what a great night. Oh. What a great game. What a great setting. Two good teams. I mean, the grit within that you saw the Lions team was remarkable. Wounded, barely able to stand, and yet they find a way to win the game and score 34 points. And I know that decision at the end of the game, everybody's going to wonder why. And we'll talk about it for weeks, but God knows Detroit's now they get ready to play Buffalo. They're really good. They're good. They're hard to beat. You can see it.
Yeah, they really. I think you're exactly right. It's like the old Steven Seagal movies in the 80s, hard to kill. The Lions are hard to kill. I mean, you really got to go get them. They are built for winning. Dan Campbell, the controversial decision, we'll talk all about that, 34-31. The Packers do get the money. Remember, this did tick down to 3, back up to 3.5. So we always talk about it here in the Lombardi Line. You got to make sure you get the better of the number. So if you got those Packers plus 3.5, you win. If you waited and you either laid it with the lines 3, you got to push. The over does hit and went up to 53, by the way, closed there. We had it at 51.5 earlier in the week. Easily gets over that with an explosion of points in the second half. The controversial decision that Michael is alluding to, in case you did not see it, 4th and 1, inside of a minute to go in the game, and 4th and inches, if we're being fair, and the Lions well within field goal range already, and Dan Campbell decides to roll the dice and go for the first down. They get it, even though Jared Goff was slipping and could have easily fallen down. He did fall down, but the Packers could not get behind the line of scrimmage, sets up the game-winning field goal as time expires. Here's Dan, Michael, talking about the decision, and then I want to get your thoughts.
I just felt like we needed to end it on offense, and I did not want to give that ball back, and I believed we could get that. I believed we could convert, and I trusted that O-line. I trusted David, and they came through for us. It's a hell of a call by Ben, It just I knew how I wanted to play this game. The team knew it, and everything in me told me to let's finish this, and so we did.
I think what Campbell said is true. I didn't want to give the ball back to Green Bay. It would have been 40 seconds. Now, Green Bay wouldn't have had any timeouts left, but you're playing indoors. The field is, you can make a 60-yard field goal probably, or at least attempt one. And, even though Green Bay doesn't have a great long-range kicker, but still in that dome you could make one. And, look, they had a hard time. The Packers only ran 45 plays and scored 31 points in the game. So it wasn't like this Lions defense was dominant. It was good in the first half, but I think once they declared their game plan, I think then Green Bay kind of figured out how they wanted to play the game, and Green Bay kind of got some rhythm going offensively. So, look, I'm usually more conservative to go for it on 4th down. I think that 40 seconds was a problem for him. I probably would have kicked it. He has more guts. He ran the toss play early in the game on 4th down. That got stopped. He wasn't going to do that, so he ran a power play, a gap scheme, so you couldn't get penetration within the line. And he ran behind Penny Sewell, which is not a bad idea to run behind. And look, you could say all you want. I mean, I know everybody thinks Chicago, Ryan Poles is a great general manager. He let David Montgomery walk out of there, and I still don't understand that. Mm-hmm. Like, I think David Montgomery is one of the best players in the league. I really do. I mean, this guy's – I know Gibbs gets a lot of love, but Montgomery, every time I watch the Lions, I'm like, man, Montgomery's good. And he was good at Iowa State.
Right.
I'm like, man, Montgomery's good. He really is. And I think at the end of the day, the Lions have what Angela Duckworth talked about in her book, Grit. They have grit. They have this incredible grit, this toughness, this perseverance that they can endure. Now, this defense has got to get better. There's no question. I mean, they lose McNeil for a little bit. He came back from a concussion. But they need DJ Reader in there to help their inside run defense, particularly when they rush the passer, because they're very good at pushing the pocket back, and they're going to have to get better. They're going to need some guys healthier. It'll be a tougher game against Buffalo when they go there next week.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the first decision to go for it in the second half. I felt like that kind of flipped
That was a bad one.
Right. When you're deep in your own end, that was very kind of, to me, Brandon Staley-ish. He used to do that back in his Charger days. I remember the game in Baltimore. He did that at the 19, and I went, I just don't get that. And look, I'm a results guy, right, Michael? So I you won the game. I tip my cap to you, Dan Campbell. You were in a position to win the game with that play. They did. I mean, golf is falling down. It could have gone terribly the other way. But it's those other decisions that I do really look at, and I go, man, I just don't understand that one, and not punting the football back away. And go back to the San Francisco game and the title game last year. I felt like some of those decisions that he made, if we're being honest, cost them a chance to go to the Super Bowl. So
they did.
It's this double-edged sword, right? Like, they're not there without Dan Campbell and the way he coaches. And you're right. This is the team knows this is what he's going to do, so they're used to it. They're expecting it. But I heard Matt LaFleur, and he said afterward, Michael, he said he was asked, was he surprised by what Dan Campbell did? And he said, I was surprised by the second one, but this is the way he coaches. And to be honest, it gave us a chance. And that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Like, you're giving the other team some chances that might not be there otherwise if you don't take these risks, right?
Right. And I think in this game, one thing I'm not going to argue with the course of the game. See, my biggest pet peeve on these fourth down calls and just go for it, and Greg Olsen always wanting to say go for it, is the situation determines do you go for it, right? The situation has to determine for it. I think, let's take Sean Payton on Monday night. He kicks the field goal. Everybody wanted him to go for it there. He kicks the field goal, but he knows he's got Jameis Winston in a 2-minute drill, and maybe he could make a play. He knows Winston. He rolled the dice. So he got lucky.
Yep.
Did he get lucky, or was it a smart decision? Did Dan Campbell get lucky, or was it? See, what cracks me up about this fourth down calls is when they work out, it was a great decision, right?
Mm-hmm.
When they kicked the points, you got lucky. So
Right.
Sean Payton got lucky, but Dan Campbell made a great decision. Like, you can't have it both ways. And I think you got to evaluate the game. Like, the game. And look, I am conservative. I'm with you on a lot of this. But last night, he felt like if I give this ball back to Green Bay, they only had 45 plays. They only had the ball for less than 24 minutes in the game, and they scored 31 points. Can I stop them? My defense, even though they only played less than 24 minutes, was gassed. They had, it's again like the Bears game. And so he felt like I can win the game here. And, behind. And look, here's what I think people get a little bit cross-eyed on Detroit. Their execution is so damn good. Last night, one of the stats I look at every single week on Monday is, and this is a Bill Parcells thing, is to add the rushes and completions together.
Okay.
And they keep track of it on websites all over, right? Because it's important. It doesn't tell you who's going to win the game. It tells you how the execution of the team's going. As a head coach, you want to know what your R&Ps are. So kind of like a profit and a loss sheet, right? Now you got to figure out why. I mean, last night they had 64 rushes and completions combined. Usually, if you get to 52, you're having a hell of a night. If you get to 52, you're really good. I mean, Green Bay had 36. So, and they scored 31 points. So Campbell's sitting there saying, and I don't know if he ran the math in his head, but he's saying, look, we can't stop them. They've got too many guys. If we play man, they'll make a big play. If we play zone, they'll get it in field goal range. So I think that's what really motivated him to make the call. And he called a really good play, a power run, and Montgomery was determined, and thankfully Goff didn't fall down or fumble the ball.
Coach of the Year odds is interesting to me. It's Campbell is now odds on at minus $1.35. Mike Tomlin is plus 475. And then KOC in Minnesota, Kevin O'Connell, is plus 475 as well. To me, Mike Tomlin at plus 475, if they win that division.
It's ridiculous,
right? Like, how? What am I missing?
Well, you're missing that people didn't realize that all spring we talked about how the Steelers were going to be under, how Mike wasn't going to get to 9 wins like he typically does. It was all nauseum on every single program. There's nobody. And look, on paper, the Steelers didn't look like a good team.
Right.
They're taking a quarterback, Russell Wilson, who wasn't very good. Everybody was more excited about Justin Fields. But Mike has done a remark. I mean, Sean Payton at plus 650 is comedy. Both those teams, Tomlin, Payton, and Harbaugh, people were betting the under on.
Yes.
I mean, Payton's the total on win total. If you put their win total up there for where they are and what they do, and that should tell you who should be the coach of the year.
There it is. I do not get the odds on for Dan Campbell. Again, this is not an anti-Dan Campbell sentiment.
No, it's not. But to me, when you win Coach of the Year, it isn't because we thought you were going to win 11 and you won 11.
Right.
It's we thought you were going to win 5 and you won 12.
And I get it. Like some people are going to say, well, that's expectation levels have changed. Dan should get credit for what he's done. Absolutely, he should. But I think to your point about if you look at the Chargers and the Steelers preseason and the way those teams looked, or at least the evaluation of those teams by the general public versus the evaluation of the Lions, I think there's real value in those numbers for Tomlin and or Peyton and or a Harbaugh over a Campbell. Right? And let's say if the Lions lose next week to Buffalo, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I wonder where these numbers go. Right? Like, does Campbell have to go 16-1?
Mike Tomlin's, to me, it's either Mike Tomlin or Sean Payton, Coach of the Year. I don't think to me, that should be the conversation because both those include, let's put Jim Harbaugh in the conversation too.
Yeah.
Both those teams, all 3 of those teams, people were betting their under total. There was a lot of people betting the under. And we thought it was ridiculous that Denver, what was they, 5.5? Or are they 4.5? They might have been 4 or 5.5.
Yeah.
Rookie quarterback.
I mean, come on. I just saying, America, like there should be some value in those plus numbers here. Dan Campbell has done a remarkable job, everybody. So Lion fans, don't come at me. By the way, we got a lot to get to today. Going to have Thomas Gable. Tim Murray's going to join us in hour number 2. And also shout out to Harry Gagnon yesterday in the program. He had David Montgomery minus $1.55 late it. First touchdown, no problem. Cash that ticket with the Lions yesterday. That's why it pays to watch the Lombardi Line.
And he had the over, too, in the game, right?
And he had the over,
too. He was good on the over.
He was on fire. Coming back with some injury reports next here in the Lombardi Line.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
Coming up Friday on Follow the Money, Championship Week in college football. Picks with Paul Stone, Mike Somich, NFL picks and props, and we recap a great Thursday night game. Follow the Money weekdays 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to VSiN.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to VSiN.com/pro.
So, Paulie, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Back alongside Mike Lombardi, Dave Ross here with you on a Friday edition of the Lombardi Line. I'm going to get to our game of the week here with the Chargers and the Chiefs in a second. Got a lot of injuries to update as well. But we did get some rather interesting news from VSiN Primetime last night because the CEO right here, Derek Stevens, joined the guys to talk about, Michael, a rather large bet. And some of these injuries that we're going to get to could affect it. I wonder if there's going to be a sweaty bet out there. Let's hear from Derek. And I want to get your thoughts on the window take they just had yesterday for this Eagles-Panthers game.
Hey, one thing I want to mention to the VSiN listeners here. There's something out there you ought to know. Circus Sports, we took a pretty big wager this afternoon, just like about an hour and a half ago. We took a money line bet, $3 million bet on Philadelphia today. We moved the number. If you look on your boards, sure, our money line on Philadelphia is out of whack compared to the rest of the market, which means Carolina is on a discount. We are looking for some significant buyback on Carolina. We posted Carolina plus 650. A lot of other shops have them only plus $5, but we're $3 million long right now going into Sunday. So Carolina is the value of the day.
Wow. I mean, I know Derek loves to wear the Detroit Lions blue, but I think he's going to have to start wearing Carolina blue here today.
How about that?
I mean, look, what does the bet comes in at $400K, right? If he wins it, they lose $400K.
For a $3 million.
I got a feeling, I think to me, this is an interesting play. You almost feel like you're risking $3 million to watch. Oh my God, I would lose my mind. I mean, I would lose my mind. As much as I think the Eagles are going to win, I just know the NFL at times, and it becomes a little bit difficult.
I get sweaty thinking about it. I have no idea who the person is or who's putting up that kind of money to walk in here, behind me and say on a Thursday afternoon, let's go and put $3 million down in the Eagles money line. So Derek's going to jack up that price plus 650 in the Panthers money line here. By the way, some injury news. Dallas Goedert did not practice yesterday. Good news for those Eagles backers. Devontae Smith was back at practice, full practice there. But it's still the NFL, Michael, right? And it's the biggest spread by far, up to 13 now.
Well,
you just don't see that type of action all the time.
Right. And I mean, look, Kansas City, they had Kansas City in a game that went, Mahomes takes a 53-yard run to get the game over. They have been playing better. I think Bryce Young's playing much better than he's played in his career. And so do I think they're going to win? No. I think the Eagles are really determined. I think Detroit winning last night doesn't deter them. I think they know that with Buffalo coming up, the Eagles can't slip, and Detroit knows they can't slip, which makes it really good.
Yeah.
And weather's not going to be a factor. I think that, obviously it's really cold in the Northeast right now. There was snow all over, but we've cleared that out a little bit. So I think to me, it's going to be – I can't see Carolina pulling an upset on the road. Yes, I know they went to Las Vegas and won a game, but that was Las Vegas. That ain't Philadelphia.
Yeah, I'm with you in that Lions point. We would have had the chaos we were kind of alluding to at the end of the program yesterday had the Packers, if they were able to win that game yesterday. But – the Eagles
they don't get the fourth down conversion, right, Dave?
Right. They don't get that fourth down conversion. All of a sudden, Minnesota's live, Green Bay's live, Philadelphia's live for that potential number one seed. It's still right now in the driver's seat of the Lions. But I think it's a good point, too, though, for those bettors out there that put all that money in the Eagles. They know they have to win to keep pace. They cannot slip up. So the motivation is still there for Fly Eagles Fly come Sunday. But, boy, that's going to be a sweat. And I'll be noting that as we watch and peruse on a football Sunday. You saw some of the other injuries very quickly. Aiden O'Connell for Las Vegas did not practice. We don't know what that illness is. CeeDee Lamb, Monday night contest. He's got a shoulder situation. We'll see if he's able to go. Breece Hall, everybody's betting the Jets still. And yet he's got a knee situation. Didn't practice again. And very concerning for the Bucs because, remember, they were 7. It's down to 6.5 against the Raiders with Mike Evans and Bucky Irving both not practicing. We'll see if they're able to go. In kind of Buccaneers can't afford to lose that game if they really have visions of grandeur of winning that division against the Falcons. Very quickly, just want to mention, we do have a Pick Six contest on DraftKings. They're an official partner of the NBA. It's very simple to do if you're an NBA bettor out there. New Pick Six players, you play $5, you get 50 in Pick Six credits. So all you have to do is download the DraftKings Pick Six app. Do it now. Use the code VSiN. And when you do and use that code VSiN, you're going to play $5 to get it gets $50 rather in Pick 6 credits, only on DraftKings Pick 6. Let's get to the big one, and it is, Michael, the Chargers and the Chiefs, and it's our Lowe's Lombardi Line Game of the Week.
This is the Lombardi Line Game of the Week, presented by Lowe's. Here's Michael Lombardi.
We're not seeing a lot of movement in the number, Michael. It's still kind of holding steady all week long, which is always kind of surprising to me when you don't see any movement. Chiefs still 4 and still 43. Does that tell you, when you don't see those type of line movements like we're talking about with some of these other games here, that it feels like that number is there? Those numbers, I should say, both side and total, are there for a reason, and maybe it's a tougher one to judge. If you had to go to keys to victory, maybe more so for the Chargers to pull the upset, what do you think that requisite, what should be the plan of attack here for Jim Harbaugh and company?
Well, they need to run the ball better than they have. They need to borrow the game plan that the Raiders used and be able to run the ball. And then Herbert's got to play really good. They've got to be able to win versus man coverage. And I think if they're going to win, Quentin Johnson's going to play really well, right? He can't have a drop pass. He's got to play well in the game. And they've got to be able to throw the ball to somebody other than Ladd McConkey. So I think that's going to be the key. And they've got to find more balance in the run game. And this offensive line playing on the road is going to have to do a good job blocking Chris Jones inside and blocking the edges of the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that's the game plan. Borrow what the Raiders did and play off that for them to win. To me, the Chiefs have to control the ball like they always do. They're the best third down team in football. And what they can't do in this game is turn it over. I mean, they cannot let the Chargers turn it over. And they've got to defeat the best red zone defense in football. And when they get it down in the red zone, which they will, they've got to score touchdowns.
That's so interesting to me because, watching that Lions game last night against the Packers, I got the feeling that if you play the Lions straight up, you're not going to beat them. You got to get like a Goff turnover. You got to get a Dan Campbell go for it inside of zone 30 and you turn and kind of flip the game. Is that the Chargers against the Chiefs? That if they play them straight up, right, and there's no turnovers, there's no, they're not going to win the game.
It's hard. It's going to be hard. And turnovers a missed field goal, too. So if you can miss a field goal or if you can gain a possession somewhere. Think about this, Dave. Last night, the Lions had 10 possessions in the game. Okay? And the way the Packers decided to play the Lions we're not going to give you a big play. We're not going to give up a big play down the field. So what did the Lions do? The Lions said, okay, great. If that's the way you want to play this game, we can play that too. The longest pass play was 28 yards. The longest run was 20. So what the Lions did is they had 5 drives of the 10 that went more than 10 plays. So they just executed. Boom, boom, boom. You don't want to give us a big play? Okay, great. We'll just keep executing, and score when we get down to the red zone. And that's why they won the game. I mean, so one of the things that tells you about the Lions is they can play either way. If you want to go a little up-tempo, you want to play man against us, we'll make a big play. If you want to choose to play soft zone and let us throw these underneath routes, one of which we picked off with Nixon when he came across, then we're going to have a chance. But, we're only going to punt twice in the game, so that's not really going to affect us. The Packers only punted 3 times in the game.
So do you see it similarly here, that if you look at the way the Chargers want to play, because I don't look at the Chiefs and go, they've got big play potential still, right? They still have the rookie Worthy who's got the big speed. If you're the Chargers, you're playing everything to take away the underneath stuff with Kelsey?
What happens is what you have to do is you have to have a really good third down plan against Kansas City because they're the best third down team in football. So they keep the ball away from you. I say this all the time on the show. You want to play good defense in the NFL, play less defense.
Right.
That's the best way to play good defense. Play less.
Right.
And by doing that, that's what they do. They play less defense, and they're very good at doing it. And they're very effective at doing it. So you're going to have a really good third down plan to get them off the field. And you got to, when it doesn't start with coverage. It starts with keeping Mahomes in the pocket, keeping him, not that he can't make throws from the pocket, but keeping him from getting out and making that run down for 53 yards or scrambling for a first down. You got to do that, and it's a hard thing to do, right? We talk about it all the time. We talk to the players about it. Rush lanes. I mean, you heard it the other day when Pittsburgh was talking about defending Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
All they talked about, they didn't talk about what coverage we're going to play. They talked about we got to coordinate this pass rush. That's the way to stop quarterbacks. And when you run past the quarterback, it's the worst place to be in football because he's yet to turn and run that way.
I always used to think about that. You used to talk about that with Chase Young back in the day. He leads the league in running past the quarterback. I thought that was a great line. You take yourself right out of the play. You can't do that with the Patrick Mahomes.
You're useless,
of the world, right?
Yeah, and then Patrick steps up and he moves to his right, and all of a sudden now he's got a 20-yard gain that he wouldn't have if he didn't create that movement.
Yeah, Chargers, you better be disciplined in those rush lanes because Patrick Mahomes, 15, still does it as good as anybody out there. It's kind of sneaky, but that's still the way he gets it done. That is the Lombardi Line Lowe's Game of the Week, Chargers and Chiefs. When we come back, how did the books make out in that wild one last night? We'll go down to the Borgata with Thomas Gable next on the Lombardi Line.
They're off.
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup. Then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the sports betting network.
We continue the Friday football conversation here on the Lombardi Line. Dave Ross, Michael Lombardi here with you. We've got conference championship games. Michael, I know you're going to be getting on a flight to Indianapolis to check out the Big Ten championship. Week 14, obviously, is already well underway with that Thursday night game, 34-31 in the Midwest as well, with Detroit getting that win. I wonder how the books fared. So we go to our guy down at the Borgata as the sportsbook director. Thomas Gable does a great job there. You can follow him on X, as I do, at T-Gable Sports. Joins us now on the Progressive Guest Line. Thomas, let's start before we look ahead at college football tonight and over the weekend in Week 14 with last night. How'd you guys make out, depending on where you had it? Packers were getting 3.5, went down to 3s in some spot. How did you guys make out with the result last night?
Yeah, not a great result with it landing on 3 there, but as you said, if you were taking the Pack, you wanted to take the 3.5 there, and we actually opened the game 4 and 3.5. It did bounce to 3 briefly, and then the total, obviously, we had a little bit of liability on the over there, which easily got there, and people were still betting Detroit money line. So not a great result for us to start the Week 14 slate. But I mean, listen, the Lions, they showed that they are, we know that they're a tough team. We know they're a tough-minded team, and they were able to overcome a lot of injuries, a lot of guys missing, and they were able to get it done against, one of the teams that are right there in their division that were looking to get back into the division hunt. But now I think the Lions pretty much have a nice stranglehold on that division. So, and it was obviously important, too, for them with the number 1 seed as well hanging out there in the NFC, because the Eagles only 1 game back, and Lions also have a tough one coming up there next week against Buffalo. So the Eagles are kind of just laying there and wait, see if they can overtake them for the number 1 seed.
TG, did you close at 3.5 or 3?
We closed 3.5, Michael. So again, people who took the Green Bay, taking the 3.5, they got there.
Yeah, that was always hard. Let's shift it to college football. I know I'm going to head to the Big Ten championship. My son coaches at Oregon, the quarterback. So Millie and I will be on the plane wearing green. Everybody else we are, as we know, TG. So I'm sure you're getting a ton of action on the We Are program, right?
Well, it's interesting because as soon as you saw last Saturday when Penn State was up big on Maryland, the text started coming in from different interested parties to me as far as like, what would you make Penn State Oregon in the Big Ten championship game? Everybody's thinking that this was going to be like close to a touchdown spread, and I personally made it a 3-point game. I reached out to Richie Baccelleri out there at Circa, and Richie does great college football numbers and great college basketball numbers just to see what he said. And Richie actually made this game a pick, or even Penn State a small favorite. So, but the consensus obviously is, hey, Oregon is much better team than Penn State, and on a neutral should be a little bit higher than that. So 3.5. I've seen a 4 pop occasionally, but for the most part, the market's 3.5 here on this game. And Michael, as you said, I knew we were going to get a ton of Penn State money here. There are a ton of alumni in the area and Penn State backers, and I think that we're probably going to end up meeting Oregon in this game, quite frankly, just because of the regional bias here in Atlantic City with the Nittany Lions. But, I mean, you look at this game, and Penn State, while the consensus is, okay, they haven't beaten anybody really of substance, and you can certainly make that case. Here they are. If they win this game, they're looking at potential number 1 seed for the college football playoff, which is kind of unfathomable, but James Franklin, again, you got to take that into account in your handicap. What big game has James Franklin won since he's been at this program?
Yeah, and they're few and far to come by. That's but for sure. Thomas, this is the new frontier. I mean, you guys are setting numbers now for something that's never been done before in the history of college football with the expanded playoff up to 12 now. When everything was announced earlier this week, and obviously we knew the matchups, but we didn't know how it was going to play out as far as projecting to win the national championship. Did that change anything for you guys? Because not to say that some of these games don't matter, but obviously the big ones that do matter are like the Clemson-SMU game, the game tonight between UNLV and Boise State that could still kind of impact teams coming in. Did that change anything based on, well, it'd be nice to win the conference championship, but it really doesn't affect us because we're in?
It changed a little bit, and it changed in how people are also looking at this too. I mean, people I think see a path now for Alabama. So suddenly, you saw some Alabama money come in there for the national championship. The other team that's getting a lot of interest also is Notre Dame. I think just because of the price, you can get them around 10-1. So we do have some liability on the Irish there. But yeah, I mean, it really kind of just shifted how people looked at, Alabama looked dead and gone, and then all of a sudden now they have life again after Tuesday night. So that's the way that the market kind of shifted in regards to that.
How about Clemson playing SMU? We say SMU hasn't played anybody. Clemson, they come in suffering some loss, but they get to the conference championship game. What's your handicap on this one, TG?
Yeah, I made Clemson a short favorite in this, but obviously the market disagreed with that, and SMU now laying 2.5, and it's been mostly SMU money here as well. So again, huge game with the repercussions. Clemson, they win, they're in, and they have a bye. So Dabo's all in obviously on this one, and with the game being there in Charlotte, North Carolina, it's I still like Clemson in this spot, but that's why I made him a short favorite. But yeah, I mean, it's been mostly SMU money here.
I'm with you though, Thomas. I see it the same way. It feels like new life for Dabo. He seems pretty hyped about that, and we saw Fran Brown of Syracuse thanking, say, hey, you guys got new life down there. Good luck. Texas is now they're up to 3. I'm seeing in some spots here against Georgia. In that part of the world there in Atlantic City, are you guys seeing a lot of action here on the SEC title game?
Yeah, we will. It's been decent so far, and advance handle, in terms of advance handle, I mean, it's not as heavily bet as the Penn State-Oregon game, but this one will certainly do its fair share of business for us. And as you said, Texas now up to 3, and from where we open at 2.5. The total has also ticked up a point there, 48.5 up to 49.5, and it's been mostly Longhorn money. Obviously, Georgia has gotten the better of them earlier this year. Played a great game, but Texas, again, I do have them power rated slightly higher than Georgia, and even though this game is being played in Atlanta, I still would give Texas the nod here, and I'm not surprised that we're starting to see some Texas money roll in.
Hey, TG, I know UNLV's the big play out in Las Vegas, JVT, the whole group. They have Boise State. Some shops it's 4, there's 4.5, there's 5. Where are you on this game?
Yeah, the number is, depending where you shop, you can certainly find different numbers on this one. So we're currently sitting 4.5, which is where we opened it. Did get down to 4. We had took early UNLV money right at opening, the number up at 4.5. And the under as well has gotten hit here. Opened at 59.5. Now it's down to 57.5. So the under's gotten played here. We did go back to 4.5, but I think this one, obviously, again, big repercussions here for the playoff in terms of implications. And right now, a little bit more UNLV money here, but obviously, the vast majority of the handle is going to be coming in today.
TG, got to ask you about, we talked about earlier in the program, Derek Stevens and company here at Circa taking a $3 million bet on the Eagles money line against Carolina. That number's up to 13 here with the Eagles. What are you seeing in that one for Fly Eagles Fly? With the Lions win, they kind of have to win to keep pace for hope for that number 1 seed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do. And, I think some people looking at this game going into it were like, all right, could be a spot where the Panthers could catch the Eagles kind of just off guard because it is the Panthers and, huge spread. But, the Eagles know they have to win this game in order to keep pace for that number 1 seed. And believe me, they want that number 1 seed. So we actually have seen some Carolina money here, surprisingly, taking the points with the Panthers. But, I mean, again, to get any sort of return, I guess you're going to have to lay out $3 million on the Eagles' money line if you want to get any sort of return, bang for your dollar. Because, my goodness, I mean, I'm sure Circa had a decent price at that point. If you could say a decent, probably $7 or so that they probably laid on it.
Yeah. I'm with you, though, man. You got to lay a whole lot to try to get something back on that Eagles money line. Thomas, really appreciate it as well. Enjoy the action this weekend. We'll catch up to you next week.
All right. Thank you, guys.
There he is, everybody.
Thanks, TG.
Thomas Gable does a great job at the Borgata. When we come back, different game or more of the same for the NFL. That's next on the Lombardi Line.
Got a good thing coming. Just wait and see. It's a good.
You spoke, we listened. Introducing the all-new VSiN Watch app. Now, you can watch and listen to VSiN expert analysis live wherever you are. Missed a show? No problem. Catch replays of VSiN's full lineup at any time. View highlights sorted by sport. Or use the search feature to find specific teams and topics you're looking for. And the best part? It's free for a limited time. Download the VSiN Watch app today. Available now on the App Store and Google Play. And join us on the Sports Betting Network.
This is the Lombardi Line with former NFL executive Michael Lombardi on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We continue the Friday football conversation. Dave Ross, Michael Lombardi here with you. Going to get more college football insight from Tim Murray in hour number 2. So great conversation with Thomas Gable in the last segment. I want to play a new game here, a different game, or more of the same when we look to the NFL here for week number 14. When you think of the Steelers, Michael, I don't think offense. I think defense first. But that offense, last weekend, let Russ cook. So will it be a different game or more of the same? Look what they did, though, Michael. 37 points. I know they had a defensive score. 520 total yards. 8 yards per play, 20 first downs. Michael.
It's going to be a different. It's going to be a different game. Look, Zach Taylor's inability to have any team toughness, his inability to work on fundamentals and techniques. You know, I talked about it earlier in the show about how the Lions' execution is so unbelievable, right? Mm-hmm. And so I just think, to me, that's the opposite of what we're dealing with here. And so it's ridiculous. It's just bad. I mean, the Bengals are soft. They don't have soft players. They're a soft team, softly coached. You know, I said on my podcast, I think there are 2 guys that would be up for the, if Sharman ever needed a spokesman, it would either be Zach Taylor or Mike McDaniel. Those 2 guys they preach softness, and why wouldn't they sponsor Sharman?
And so what you're telling me, it's going to be a different game because Jim Schwartz and that defense for Cleveland, they might not have right now the most skill, but they definitely have some skilled players. Like you look at Denzel Ward and obviously Myles Garrett. That defense is going to be a little bit different. It's not going to be the path of least resistance like the Steelers had last week against the Natty.
Yeah.
Right?
No, because the Cleveland, they're not great on defense, but they're going to play and they tackle and they're going to play hard.
Yeah.
And they're not, they practice probably this week. But look, you can complain. I know Mike Palm asked the question about Lou Anarumo, but I think to me it's situational based on the head coach. You can't make something better when the coach won't demand it from the players.
Yeah, so if we're expecting that from the Steelers this week, people, curb your enthusiasm. It might be a different game for sure there. What about with the Falcons defense? And they're going to take on the Vikings. The number's been going against the ATL all week. Last week against the Chargers, they played good enough to win defensively, right? Allowed just 3 field goals and a 2-point conversion. Limited the Chargers to under 200 yards of total offense. 10 first downs allowed. That's it. They did have 5 sacks you don't see that from a Falcon defense. They forced a fumble. Can you expect more of the same, or is that just an anomaly and we're going to get a different game against Minnesota?
I think the way they changed their structure defensively, I think you can expect more of the same. They should play a little better. I mean, look, they're going to have to stop the run. I think that's going to be the key. They have to stop, Aaron Jones, but they're going to play better offensively. I'm really surprised this line is moving away from Atlanta. I really am. I mean, today I do Russo. I think it's going to be a good play at +6. I don't see. Look, I don't think Atlanta's a great team, but I don't think there's almost a touchdown difference between Atlanta and Minnesota. I think Minnesota's good. I think this is a reflection of one team not winning and the other team being so good at winning close games. I think this will be a close game.
Raheem Morris, this is year 1. This is head coaching job number 2 for Raheem, back from his Tampa Bay days years ago. He was in D.C. when I was there kind of as a reclamation project under the Shanahan tree. In this version of Raheem, who's a defensive guy, right? That's what he's supposed to be known for. What are you seeing from this defense? Why did he have to change it? Because obviously it wasn't working at the beginning of the year.
Well, I think with this game, the last game when they had the bye week, I think they became more aggressive, and they tried to attack the passer. They tried to move him off his spot. They didn't just try to rush forward, play their zone. Kind of did some different things, created. Now the problem with that is Kevin O'Connell sees it.
Yeah.
He understands it. Now he can adapt to it. So I think, to me, that's where it goes to. So there's going to be an adjustment. But, look, this is do or die for Atlanta, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Tampa's playing the Raiders. The Raiders are a 7-point dog here. Mike Evans may not play. Baker Mayfield was in a boot last week. So there's a lot of possibilities, and this Atlanta team's got to start to play better. They haven't been playing well at all. I mean, let's face it. I mean, everybody has them going to the Super Bowl, and I call this general manager Super Bowl winning general manager Terry Fontenot, but they've lost 3 in a row.
They've
lost
skids.
to New Orleans, Denver, and the Chargers, and now they're on the road for 2 weeks. They've got Minnesota, then they go to the Raiders. Look, there's no gimme putt when they play the Raiders.
No.
Then they come home to play the Giants, and then they have the Commanders in Carolina. I mean, you would think if you're a Falcon fan, you should win 3 of the next 5 games at least, or you should win all 5. If you're a legitimate playoff team, you should win 4 of the next 5 games.
But can
they beat the Commanders in Washington? I don't think they can.
It's a really bad division, and they felt like they had the stranglehold on it, and that stranglehold has been certainly loosened, and Tampa Bay is breathing down their necks right now. So very important game for them, but that defense has got to be more of the same if they're going to get in the winner's circle ultimately in that division. What about the Niners offense? And we know that they're depleted, Michael, right? So everybody's got injuries, and we know CMC, he's done for the year, although Kyle Shanahan did allude that if they got to the playoffs, maybe he would be back. We know Mason's not going to be able to go as well. He's on the IR, so you're going to get a lot of Garindo this week at running back. Only 10 points. I know it was snowy, but the yards not good there. You only get 86 passing and the 153 rushing. This year, look at the fumbles lost. My goodness. And third down conversions, not great. So what do you make of the Niners? Is it going to be more of the same or a different game this week against the Bears?
I think it's going to be different. Obviously, the competition is not Josh Allen playing quarterback. And, look, they couldn't get any footing in that game. And this Niner team, I think they do have some pride. I think you're tapping into the pride. I expect the Bears to play well for Thomas Brown. I really do. I think there's a sense of urgency in the building. There's a sense that he's kind of taking command of the team. I like what I've heard from him. But the problems with the Bears are still the problem with the Bears. They have a hard time stopping the run. I think, I don't know where we are injury-wise in San Francisco. Is Trent Williams going to come back from the death of a baby? We don't know that yet. So there's a lot of question marks in this game. But I think the Niners will play better this week because the competition isn't the same.
Yeah, getting 4 points. The Bears are out at Levi's Stadium in Santa Clara, and that total sitting at 43.5 is a slight uptick in that total there this week. So, by the way, if you want all of Michael's weekend previews, certainly if you're a basketball hoops guy, we got Greg Hoops Peterson with his college basketball analysis. Josh Applebaum's going to break down his college football best bets. Steve Mackinnon's got amazing analytics reports on the NBA. Jonathan Davis for you hockey heads out there. Each and every day he's got his best bets. Adam Burke does a great job, certainly with the news, with helping us out on the website each and every day. His NFL player props for you. So it's all there at VSiN.com. And if you're not a VSiN Pro subscriber, you really should be. As little as $9.99 for your very first month, VSiN.com/subscribe. So every single day, you get some of the best sharp analysis out there to help you make better bets. Let's get back to one more that I wanted to get to here for if it's going to be a same game or a different one here. And that's with the Titans defense. Now, last week against the Commanders, I will admit readily, I was on the wrong side of this one from Jump Street. I like Tennessee coming off that win against Houston. It did not look good in D.C. They gave up 42 points, over 450 yards, 463 to be exact, 29 first downs. You couldn't get them off the field. 7 red zone trips, Michael. Just come on down to the red zone. It's open all the time here. How about this? Time of possession allowed in a 60-minute game. You only possess the ball for less than 20. Is it going to be a different game against the Jags this weekend or more the same?
Oh, I think it's going to be a different game. I mean, the Titans can play better. And look, Mac Jones scored 13 points in 2 games when he was the starting quarterback for Jacksonville before last week when he went in the fourth quarter. And I don't know if Houston just decided to let him pass, make plays, and really didn't put much resistance up. But he played the best I've seen him play since his rookie season in that fourth quarter against the Houston Texans. I don't anticipate that carrying over. I don't think that'll be more of the same. I think this Tennessee front is formidable. And as long as they don't start out behind, I think they'll have a really good opportunity. I mean, it's remarkable that Tennessee's a 3.5-point favorite against anybody. Yeah. Really remarkable.
Very quickly to that end, because, I always kid that, you get to this time of year with 2 teams that they're already looking at the draft and the offseason and everything else. That's what we do from a betting and or fans perspective. For the players and coaches and those staffs, how important is a Jags-Titans game here in December where you just had abysmal seasons to date?
Well, there's an eye in the sky, Dave, right? There's that everybody films these games. And so that film is going to determine your livelihood. And if you play bad or you don't play with effort, it's going to affect your market value when it comes time next year. It's going to define who you are. So the eye in the sky is something that is undefeated. And that's where you get players to play hard. That's why we call it the NFL, because on any given Sunday, it's the eye in the sky that matters. And so, this notion that we're going to tank is an NBA note. We keep trying to make the NFL into the NBA. I don't know why people with fans try to do that. It is never going to happen. It won't happen. And because of the eye in the sky.
Players in the NFL do not tank because, to your point, they won't be in the league for very long if that's what they see on tape. When we come back, Tim Murray going to break down all these conference championship games. That's next here on the Lombardi Line.
Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard share their knowledge of sports, gambling, and pop culture.